Hey guys, it's Sign here with HobbiesofaMan once again, and today we're going to be doing our check-in video for the month of August, and it's been a pretty simple month. I actually ended up having to do a lot of studying at the beginning of the month because final exams for the summer semester. I finished that, and I'm basically free right now, at least for another 10 or so days. Sorry, at this point, actually more like 6 or 7. And then the semester starts, and the first couple, days of the semester are pretty slow going. The first week or two don't really have too much going on for them because, there really is no homework or any assignments yet because there hasn't been any content covered, right? So I should be pretty free for the rest of the month here. And I think I've been using that time well, but I have been browsing YouTube a bit more than usual, I guess. So I've been reading a bit less than I would like, but also more than previous months, I think. So yeah, let's just jump into everything here. Let's start with the stuff I've been watching first. So I basically spent most of last month at the movie theater. At this point, I have not really gone to the movies right now. There is Alien Romulus, and I think I might go watch that this weekend, but I haven't yet. So no movies at all, at least nothing that wasn't at home. So what I've been watching is mostly Stargate. I really love the early seasons of the show. I remember growing up, me and my dad used to watch Stargate Universe. We used to watch it on Amazon Prime. And when the pandemic started, I watched like the first 6 or 7 seasons of Stargate SG-1, and I really loved it. I thought it was awesome, but then I got burnt out because I literally binge watched it for 2 months or so at the beginning of the pandemic, and so I basically burnt myself out of it, right? But it's been a few years. I had been thinking about the series for a while, and well, I took the opportunity to start watching it, and it's just so easy to watch. It's very comforting to me because I remember watching it when I needed comfort. So this time it's like, it gives you comfort again in that sense. But also it has enough sci-fi and technobabble stuff that it really keeps my mind engaged. It makes me interested to watch, but also manages to have simple enough storylines that I can kind of not pay attention completely. And if that makes sense, there's a really great kind of like flow to the show that I really like, that makes me very happy to watch it, right? It's just very consumable in a way that like watching something new isn't, or watching something relatively modern isn't, right? Like I'm not constantly cringing at stupid stuff that the characters say, or annoyed at how they destroyed Star Wars with this show or anything like that, right? It's just so easy to watch, and I like that. And the episodes are long enough that they last for 45 minutes. That gives me like a sense of completeness that a lot of modern shows lack, right? And I just like the characters a lot. It's really fun. It is a little bit outdated at this point in terms of science and in terms of CGI and in terms of practical effects and all of that stuff. Like, yes, it could use an upgrade. There should be a new Stargate series, preferably one that's animated. But even with all of those issues, it's not so old that it's like ugly. Like, it has a lot of production value to it, at least it feels like it. And so even though it's outdated, I don't dislike looking at it, right? It's kind of like watching the original Star Wars, right? Like, yeah, it's old and kind of crummy, but also it's so classic. It looks so like authentic, if that makes sense. And I really think that Stargate does the same thing. And so I've been really, really enjoying it. I watched up to episode 16, or up to episode 15, sorry. Episode 15 of season 1 called Core Eye, I think. There's 21 episodes in the first season, so I'm almost done with it. I'll probably end up halfway through season 2 by the end of this month. And I'll probably leave it at that for a while and then come back later, right? But I've just been really enjoying it. So yeah, if you've never watched Stargate and you want to watch something that is in like the military sci-fi kind of realm, I recommend it. It's pretty fun. So yeah, otherwise I've watched one movie this month, and that was last night. I watched One Piece Stampede. I feel like I've watched this movie like 7 times since I first watched it. And that's because I really like it. I think it has the right amount of nonsense for like a non-canon movie in it, while also being mostly just about our characters in having fun, like fighting, right? And I like that. I think it's really, really great. I really enjoy this movie a lot. So, even though it's not necessarily like that good in terms of story and stuff, in terms of like sheer enjoyment I get out of it, it's like a 10 out of 10, right? So I watched it last night because I just felt like it. I was like tired. I didn't feel like watching Stargate, but I also didn't feel like watching anything else. And I wanted to watch One Piece, but I hate watching the normal anime because it's just so annoying. Like the pacing is weird. The noise effects, the sound effects are annoying and lame and old as fuck, and they're just like disgusting. And I don't know. I didn't really feel like jumping into normal One Piece. So the movie was like the right amount of weirdness for me. So that's what I watched. And that's basically what I've been watching this month. So yeah, in terms of reading, I have been hitting the Kindle quite a bit, especially at the beginning of the month. I read the first book in the Odyssey 1 series, which is called Into the Black. And then the second one I think is called Heart of the Matter. Let me see. Yeah, Heart of the Matter, Odyssey 1, Book 2. And I'm about 70% through that one, and it's really fun. It's a lot less exciting than the first one. The first one is perfect. I think it's one of the best sci-fi novels out there. It's one of my favorites for sure. And that first book is great. The second one is a lot of world building, which is a lot less interesting the more times you read it. And I've read this series about 7 times at this point. So this is probably the least interesting out of all of the books in the series, but it is one that is pretty necessary for you to read, right? So I've been chugging along, I've been enjoying it, and it's actually been helpful that it's not the most interesting book in the series because book 3 is actually my favorite. And if I had been reading book 3, I would have not been able to put it down. So I would have been distracted from studying if I had been reading that one, right? So I'm actually kind of happy that I've been reading book 2 instead, because it's not so interesting that it keeps me plugged in, right? So that was kind of helpful, but you know, it is what it is. It's not that special or that important to talk about. So I'm not gonna mention it much more after this, but Odyssey 1 is an amazing series. You guys should read it if you can. Then I read a bit of Sword Woman. I read the Sword Woman short story, which is, you know, in between those 2 little tabs there. It's a 30-page short story, I think, introducing this character called Agnes the Castilian. And she is like the original sword lady. I think that there's a few other ones that kind of take after her, right? Like Jiro of Joiry and Red Sonja, of course, take after Dark Agnes. But I'm pretty sure Dark Agnes is one of the first cataloged or like, you know, well understood, like classic sword and sorcery or, you know, like swashbuckling kind of female characters, right? I mean, I guess Bella would be before her, but I think that if you like that kind of like she-devil with a sword type vibe, Dark Agnes is the originator of that. So it was pretty cool to read. I liked it. It was fun. It was very interesting to see the love and care that Robert E. Howard has for this sort of, you know, hero woman character. He does a dedication to people like Anne Bonny and you know, characters like, or you know, historical women like that at the beginning of the story, and he really tries to emphasize this like deep, dark cesspool of anger within Dark Agnes that makes her so able, and it's really, really cool and very interesting. The storytelling is not necessarily the best. You know, it's probably one of the weaker stories that I've read by Robert E. Howard, but within that, there's such like power to the way that he writes Dark Agnes that it's really good, right? So yeah, that's it for the novels, and I guess let's just jump into the comic books. So continuing on with Robert E. Howard stuff, I read Jim Zub's Conan Serpent and War. This is a 4-book or 4-issue miniseries that kind of is Jim Zub's first attempt at creating this crossover event between different Robert E. Howard characters. It's pretty fun. It's pretty cool. I liked it. I see a lot of people have issues with this story. I'm not really sure why. I think it's mostly because they tend to be people that are like super fans of Conan, and at this point, Jim Sub was under, you know, the yoke of Marvel and Disney, and so Conan can't be as brutal and savage as he needs to be, and so this story maybe suffered in their eyes quite a bit, but for me it felt fine. It's not as good as Jim Sub's current work, of course, but it's not bad. I liked it, I had fun with it, I enjoyed it. The only issues that I had with it are pretty common for crossover stories, which is the kind of story feels like it's both too short and too long for the amount of issues that it had, and some of the ways that things get fixed are pretty hand wavy, and that's not great, but also that's just kind of how it goes, so it is what it is. And you know, I mean, broadly speaking, that's basically it. I mean, I like that I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 on my Sword and Sorcery book club channel. I did a review for it over there. And I like it. I think it's fun. I recommend you guys check it out if you're interested. But honestly, just check out Jim Sub's current work with Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics instead of the older Conan stuff from Marvel, right? Like, well, that's not the right way to phrase that. You should look at Conan from Marvel only if you're looking at the original years, right? And then you should look at Dark Horse. You can probably skip the second run of Marvel on Conan, and then you can jump in directly to Jim's stuff now, right? So probably start with the Conan from 2023, and if you want, go back to like Conan from like 1970s, right? 1980s maybe? I can't remember when it was, right? Like the Roy Thomas stuff. And that's probably the best Conan stuff that you're gonna get out of there. So yeah, so that's it for you know, stuff related to the Sword and Sorcery book club. In terms of normal, you know, content on the channel and stuff that I've been usually looking at, we have Barbaric number 3. I picked this up today. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Here we have Transformers number 11. This is probably the weakest issue for me at this point, and I think that's just because I don't like many of the characters that are shown in this issue. But in terms of storytelling, it's pretty good. It's just like character interactions, which are stuff that I like the most, are not very solid this time because I just don't like any of the characters. or well, I don't like the characters that are kind of big focuses, although there's a great spread at the end that was awesome, that leads into this like subversion of expectations that was pretty cool. Then we have Kill All Immortals number 2, and this is a great story. It definitely has that like Originals, CW kind of vibe to it, but also it has this almost like John Wick, like gun fu type feeling to it as well. So it's a really interesting story. I recommend you guys check it out. It's still pretty simple to catch up to it. There's only 2 issues out right now, although you could probably trade wait, and trade waiting probably would be the best because that way you get the whole story in one go, and that'd be much more exciting to read. But I've been reading it in single issues right now, and I'm really enjoying it, right? So I recommend that. Yeah. Then in the last couple weeks, I've picked up Power Fantasy number 1. It was pretty interesting. It's a very socio-political type book, and that's not necessarily something I love, but I also was pretty interested in the character designs and the character motivation. So I'm going to continue reading it at least for another 2 or 3 issues, and then I'll see if I want to continue collecting it after that. Blue Beetle number 11. This is the end of the story, and that's really disappointing because I really like this team. I think that Josh Trujillo and Adrian Gutierrez and Will Quintana do a good job, an amazing job with this story. And I mean, this run did suffer a bit. Like, you can clearly see that halfway through it, they were like, okay, you guys got to wrap it up. And so they ended up speeding up the process of some of their storytelling quite a bit. And that did make some of the storytelling suffer. But at the same time, I just love the way that they handle this character. I like the way that Jaime Reyes happens to be this like Spider-Man character almost. He just, like, nothing goes his way. He's struggling, but he has a great support system behind him, right? His friends, Paco and Brenda, and then his family members. And then he has this alien love interest. And then Starfire, one of my favorite characters ever, shows up and helps him out because she also has like experience that's not necessarily like his, right? Because Jaime Reyes is a person that has a symbiotic relationship with an alien. But at the same time, because of that symbiotic relationship with an alien, he does end up feeling alien on Earth sometimes, right? And Starfire, of course, being an alien, can identify with that and try to help him out and make him feel better. And I really enjoyed those aspects of the story. So yeah, it's pretty disappointing that it's ending, but I really like the run. I hope that, you know, Josh and Will and Adrian get together again at some point and continue on the story from where they left off. They kind of set up a really easy start of the story, which is, Blue Beetle freshman year, which means Jaime would start university at Palmera City, and it'd be, a really good way to start some of the storytelling, right? But we'll see how that goes. Hopefully they come back to it at some point. We have Gun Honey number 4. This is the end of this story arc. And I liked it. I thought it was fun. It almost feels like the story arc didn't end. Like, it feels like there's more story on this. But at the same time, I'm happy it's kind of over because it wasn't hitting the same way it usually does this time. And I mostly blame that on the artwork. I think that it was a bit sloppy. And the coloring was significantly worse than usual this time. And that's really, really disappointing. I think that the team that they had before is much better than the team they have now. And in terms of like Charles Arday and Hong Kerr are still, badass as fuck, and they do their job great. But you could tell that the artist was having a bit of difficulty with some of the posing. He was choosing to do things that maybe were different and special to him because he was trying out new things, but ended up with a worse than usual product. And then the new colorist that they have does not know how to color this character accurately or correctly, or can't really work with the artist here to create the best possible version of the story or the best possible version of the artwork. And it really makes it suffer. And that's really disappointing because this is a series that really excels at having very sexy, very badass, tight, James Bond-esque storytelling alongside an equally sexy and tight and awesome bit of artwork. And this time the artwork felt like it wasn't really hitting, it wasn't really getting to that level of the writing, and that really sucks. Then we have Sweet Paprika Black, White, and Pink, issue 2. This kind of came out of nowhere, and I kind of enjoyed it. The one thing is that there was a kind of like Food Wars-esque kind of situation where this chef gives Paprika some food, and then she starts imagining something crazy. And honestly, I would have liked it if they just got the guy from Food Wars to do that instead of, kind of aping off him or them. I can't remember if they're a guy or a girl. That would be really cool for Sweet Paprika Black, White, and Pink issue 3, but it's unlikely that it'll happen. And I think this was just a promotional piece for this new series that they're coming out with that focuses on a side character from the Sweet Paprika universe. And I'm not really sure why they thought that would work. I don't think that many people care about those characters. I don't think it's gonna pan out, and I hope that it doesn't, because it's actually, that's not true. That's not the right way to say that. I hope that it does pan out in the sense that I hope that the effort that the artists and the creators took is given back to them, that they get some money out of it. But at the same time, I hope that it doesn't work out in the sense that you don't have to turn everything into an IP. Sometimes something can just stay as a single story with no spin-offs. And Sweet Paprika has no need to be a spin-off. If anything, what it needs is a season 2, right? Like a second set of stories that deal with Paprika and Dill as they go through their life, right? Now that they are together, what are they doing next? Like, what is their relationship? Like, are they changing? Are they growing? Are they gonna expand the way that their relationship works to include other people or not? Like, that sort of idea is what I think needs to come out of Sweet Paprika, not a spin-off story of a character that was introduced in a secondary set of stories that I don't think anyone knows, right? Like, I don't know, that just didn't work for me. I'm not gonna get that series, especially because Mir Gandolfo's not the one writing it, or drawing it, so there's no point. Like, I don't get why they made that, but maybe it's like a marketing thing, right? Like, Sweet Paprika appeals to a certain group, and in order to appeal to that group, it kind of alienates another one, so we gotta give that other group a reason to kind of come into the series, right? Maybe that's why, but it just felt like it was unnecessary, right? So we'll see. Then we have My Adventure with Superman number 3. This was fun. I'm liking the series quite a bit. Sometimes the artwork kind of susses me out because I expect it to look like the animation, and it doesn't, because obviously it doesn't. But the story's pretty fun. Clark's parents show up in this one, and that was really cute. I like his mom a lot because she has that like Midoriya mom kind of vibe to her, and I think it's super cute, right? So yeah, then we have Ultimate Spider-Man number 7. Nothing to say about that one. It's pretty cool. It's nice to see Spider-Man fighting the Green Goblin, even though they're just sparring. It's also nice to see Peter meet Otto Octavius. I'm gonna hope that that turns into something interesting later on. But not much to say about that one. The artwork continues to be amazing. Then we have Supermassive. This was probably the worst of the 3 Supermassive titles that we've had so far, and I think that's a sentiment that only I have, and that's mostly because I'm not caught up to Radiant Black, and so a lot of the stuff that's happening here feels like very weird and unclear to me, right? And I think that this story, or the way that this system works, right, the idea of the crossover event once a year, would benefit from having a introduction page that tells you, hey, this is what's happening so far. Here's what you need to know to be situated between these two, or like between these 3, 4, 5 stories in the Supermassive verse, and then start, right? And the fact that they don't do that seems kind of weird. At the same time, I guess they expect that people that pick this up are the ones that are super fans, that are collecting everything, that are reading everything. And I technically fall into that, but I just don't read Radiant Black issue to issue. I collect it in trades, and I just have not gotten around to reading the trades, right? I have the first one read, and I have 2, 3, and 4 over there in front of me, but I don't have 5 and 6, which is the Catalyst War, which is the event that this takes place in, right? So I think that there was a bit of a critical mistake there from their part, but also I'm kind of not the person that they were expecting to pick this book up, and so I understand why I'm kind of the odd one out here that feels like this isn't the best. But, you know, any book can be the first book that someone picks up, right? So I think that at least for the Massiveverse crossovers, the Supermassive books, they really should go ahead and add in that kind of like summary page, right? Marvel does it really well. I don't think anyone else does, and that's kind of weird because that is a good way to make sure that you're not completely lost if this is the first time that you pick up a comic book, right? So I hope that they integrate that for the next one. I think that'd be a good idea. Then we have Ain't No Grave number 4. This was an amazing issue. There was literally no talking, and yet it was great storytelling. I really, really love this. This was all vibes, all emotions, and it was phenomenal, and the art style here is amazing. Jorge Corona really is going off, dude. Like, he is cooking in a kitchen. He's like a chef of the highest caliber in this story. His art style is phenomenal. The way that he's drawing these characters is amazing. The atmosphere, like, all of it is just so good. I love it a lot. Then we have Chitara number 2. This was pretty fun. I like it. I think it's enjoyable. I don't know how many issues it's going to go for. I don't think it should go for more than 3 or 4. And we're halfway through that, so hopefully it wraps up soon. But I think Sully is doing a great job with the storytelling. I think it's interesting and enjoyable. I'm still unsure about the age of the characters, but I am liking the way that this is fleshed out. This is the prequel story to the main continuity, basically. You can read this as we're reading the normal Thundercats, but if you're trade waiting, I recommend you read Chitara and then read the Thundercats. I think that would be probably the best way to do this, just because it makes a little bit more sense. You kind of understand where the characters are from and what they're doing a little bit better that way, but at the same time, it's not really necessary. This is kind of more of an explanation of Chitara as a character, as an individual, than it necessarily is like a part of the main story, if that makes sense. And I'm really enjoying it. And I think Sully actually does an amazing job with these covers. I know she's usually an artist, and this time she's being a writer, and she's doing a great job. So I really like that. I'm really enjoying those covers, and I'm really enjoying that story. So yeah, that's basically it for the comic books. Let me reset here for a second, and then we'll do manga. Okay, and so in terms of manga, I haven't been reading too much of it, mostly because I've been reading a lot of comic books and a lot of novels, but I did read some. So we have Do You Want to Marry a Billionaire number 2 and number 3, and this is an insane series, actually. It's kind of ridiculous. It's no holds barred, not safe for work, bachelor, and that entails what you think it entails, right? Like, there is a lot of, you know, adult content. There's also very crazy social, you know, thriller, you know, like crime type shit going on, and it's crazy. The only thing that's missing is drugs, honestly. It's like what it says right here, right? It is an erotic thriller, and it's pretty crazy. It's really enjoyable to read. It has a lot of crazy moments. It's pretty unexpected. It is weird and kind of unnecessarily so, but it's still really enjoyable. I like it a lot. It's really hard to talk about because I'm pretty sure I can't talk about any of the stuff that's in here on YouTube, so I'm not really sure how I'm gonna do a review for it, but I will try my best to figure it out. But it is exactly what you would think if I told you it's a no-holds-bar bachelorette story, right? There's 7 female characters. 3 of them are, convicted felons. 4 of them are not, but they also have their own kind of issues and problems. And the male character that's the bachelor is the one that's funding this operation completely. He expects the women to actually fall in love with him and, stay with him for the rest of their lives. And so he's doing like the craziest shit in order to make sure that that's the case. And because he's so rich, the 3 convicted felons are doing everything in their power to remove everyone else from the competition. And it's crazy and it's really fun and I really enjoy it. So yeah, there's 7 books in that series. I'm halfway through at this point basically, and I'm really, really enjoying it. And in a similar kind of vein in terms of craziness, but completely opposite in terms of safer workness and kind of content, we have Blue Lock, the soccer death game manga. And I reread volume 11, I read all of volume 12, and I read all of volume 13, although only about half of it is related to the 3rd selection arc. So this is really amazing. I love this stuff, man. Like this series is so good. It's ridiculous. It's not just because it's about soccer and I like soccer, because I don't like soccer that much. Like I like it, but I don't like follow any leagues or anything like that. I just enjoy watching like national level soccer, right? Like Mexico versus the US is a game I'll watch. I will not watch, Inter Milan versus Paris Saint-Germain or anything like that. It's my interest in soccer is pretty casual, but I have more than average knowledge base about soccer, right? And so this manga, the thing that I like about it isn't the soccer aspect necessarily. It's all of the other stuff. It's the cringy, ridiculous dialogue. It's the insane, unnecessarily edgy, vibe of it. It's the fact that it's a death game, in quotation marks, because no one actually dies, but they basically lose their ability to play soccer nationally, or internationally for that matter. So it's a really high stakes game, equivalent to a death game, but not with the same results, right? And the characters are so chaotic and weird and hinged, and it's just so fun to read, right? So yeah, I don't know what else to say. This 3rd selection arc is basically about the Blue Lock really making sure to cut down the amount of characters, right? So from 500, I think, that we had at the beginning, we're down to 35. Out of those 35, 22 of them will move on to represent Blue Lock against the national under 20 team, and they're going to fight against this team in order to decide who goes to the U20 competitions to play internationally. And this is because they want to shut down Blue Lock, like the Japanese Federation of Soccer or the Japanese Soccer Federation, whatever they're called, wants to get rid of Blue Lock because they're just hemorrhaging money with this program, right? And so Blue Lock, Ego within Blue Lock is like, okay, if you guys want to see results, let us play in the U20 competitions. Let us play in the U20 World Cup, right? And they don't want to because they already have a U20 team. So Ego is like, okay, well, my team, the Blue Lock team, which is a team of all strikers, will beat the shit out of your team, out of your U20 team that you already picked that's completely balanced, right? And so the 3rd selection is dealing with figuring out who are going to be the 11 players on the field and who are going to be the 11 players that replace them in case of issues, right? And so it was really fun. It was really ridiculous. We got introduced to a bunch of new characters. We still have that kind of 15 to 20 character core that we had from before, right? Rail and Nagi and Isagi and Rin and Bachira and all of those guys. They're still around, right? Baro, thank God, because I love Baro. They're all around, but we get introduced to a bunch of new ones, right? My favorite one is probably Karasu, who is this guy, and he's he's just so weird, and I like it a lot. So yeah, that's what I've been reading this month so far. Let me know what you guys have been reading down below. Thank you guys very much for watching, and see you guys later.